Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Chris and today we are going to be starting some cauliflower, broccoli, and cabbage seeds together. I'm out here on my back patio because I'm going to start this process by cleaning up my pots. These are 2.5-inch pots. These are all saved from various starts that I've bought from the store over the years. And I'm going to reuse these to start our seeds in today. This is a bucket of hot soapy water. I'm just going to start cleaning these up. I'm going to clean each of these pots with just a wet rag. Rinse them off. And then I'm going to spray them with some hydrogen peroxide that I put in this little sprayer. When I'm done, I'm just going to set them over here on this old towel to dry. Not everyone washes their pots before they use them each year. I only do it for ones that I'm reusing if I've used them previous years. So the reason I'm washing these out and then spraying them down with peroxide is because I just want to make sure that there's no diseases or anything on these before I use them again for this season's plants. Not everybody takes that precaution, and to be honest, I don't always take that precaution either, but most of the time, especially if I have the time to sit down and do this real quick before I start the seeds, I'll go ahead and do it just to be on the safe side. Here we have 25 pots ready to go. We're just gonna let them dry a little bit before we bring them inside and get them planted. So it's actually been a couple of days since we washed and prepped our containers here. Life happened and I did not get to these the same day, which is fine. So today is February 5th. These are the seeds that we're going to be planting. Purple of Sicily Cauliflower, red Acre Cabbage, Snowball Cauliflower, some thyme, and some Orangelo Thyme. I grew the Orangelo Thyme last year. I started 2 plants and they've done really well. In fact, these are the only ones that continued growing throughout my entire winter. The snow, the frost, the freezing temperatures, none of it killed it off. It did amazing. So I want a couple more plants out there. So when I was washing these, I knew I was going to start the cauliflower and the red cabbage, but I got to looking at all of my herbs and flowers and realized that I need to go ahead and get the thyme started as well. So I went ahead and got a few more pots cleaned up, ready to go. My 10 by 20 tray here holds 32 of these pots. So that's the number of pots that I have in here. I'm going to be doing 8 of each of these cauliflowers and then 5 cabbage. If you watched the video where I started my onion and celery seeds, I used this same Miracle-Gro container mix to start them, and they're doing fantastic. And since I have, well, most of this bag left, I'm just going to use the same potting mix to start these seeds as well. I'm going to start by just filling them most of the way with dirt. I was hoping I would get to do this outside, but unfortunately it's just another very rainy day here in Western Washington. and it doesn't look like it's going to stop raining. So I decided to go ahead and do it on my dining room table again. So when I'm lightly patting these, I'm not pushing really hard to compact the soil. Just kind of evening it out and making sure the soil is inside the pot. Now that the soil's all in, we can go ahead and put in the seeds. I'm going to start with the Snowball Cauliflower. I'm going to poke 2 holes in each of these first 8 pots. I'm not going to go very deep. According to this seed packet, you're only planting these 1/4 inch deep. So I didn't go very deep, and I'm going to do 2 per pot just to make sure that I will at least get 1. And I know for sure that these separate well because I did it last year. If we have 2 in each pot, that germinates and grows, we'll just separate them out and give the extras away. I have a tag here that I'm going to put a label that says Snowball. Like that. I'm going to set it here. For now, I'm going to put a tag in each one of these pots because inevitably at some point they will end up getting separated and I won't know what's what if I don't have a label in each individual pot. For now, just for these video purposes and so you don't have to watch me write out 32 different labels, I'm just going to put 1 in and I will do the rest later. Next, I'm going to do the purple of Sicily cauliflower. This one also says to plant 1/4 inch deep. So I'm going to do the same thing, just poke little holes in each of these pots. Try to get only 2 in a pot, but that's not working out very well. Right. Purple of Sicily. Now for this cabbage, it says to plant it 1/2 inch deep. So I'm going to make a little bit deeper holes in here for these guys. Here's our label. The rest of these pots are for the thyme. For both of these thyme plants, we're going to surface sow them. It says on the back here to surface sow. It also says on the back of this one to surface sow. So I'm not going to put any little holes in these. I'm just going to lightly put the seeds on top. When I planted these last year, I had such a hard time figuring out how many seeds I put into each pot because these are so tiny. And once you put them in, you can't see them. So for this year, we're just kind of going to take a guess too. And try not to get very many. That's 5 pots of this Orangelo Thyme. It's definitely more than I had planned, but that's okay. I'm just going to kind of lightly pat them in wherever they might be. And the rest of these will be just the common thyme. There we are. So now I'm going to go back and just fill in these holes and cover the cabbage and cauliflower seeds. A lot of people ask me what zone I'm in. And the answer to that is 8B. Don't let somebody else's growing zone or your growing zone kind of deter you from trying some of these varieties. Make sure you're looking at your growing season instead, because your growing zone isn't going to tell you whether you can grow these or not. It's just going to tell you whether they can overwinter or not. And we're not trying to overwinter these, so the growing zone makes no difference at all. But your growing season makes a huge difference. So that's what you want to pay attention to. I would encourage everybody to find that information out. Learn your climate if you don't already know it. Learn your first and last frost dates, and let that be your guide for your garden, not your growing zone. A good example that's come up recently that kind of illustrates this fact is I got a comment from somebody who's in the exact same growing zone as me, 8B, and they live in Georgia. And they mentioned that they already had their onions in the ground for a month. And that's because their climate almost couldn't be more different than mine. So even though we have the same growing zone, which just means we have the same average lowest temperature during the winter, our climates are so vastly different that the varieties we're going to choose to grow are probably going to be different. The timing that we're going to grow everything is going to be different too. And if you want a more in-depth explanation of that, go check out my video, growing zone versus growing season, and you'll get a much better explanation on each of them, why they matter in some circumstances and why they don't in others. So I'm just using this bottle to mist the top of the soil to make sure it's wet, and giving it enough that it should penetrate down to the seed and keep the seed moist, not soaking wet, but moist. And until these seedlings get, you know, a little bit bigger, a couple inches, they start growing their first true leaves, then I can switch to a bottom watering method. Until then, because they're so delicate, I use a spray bottle, and it always has worked out really great for me. I have to say, these trays from Bootstrap Farmer that I mentioned in my video on my onions and celery are really working out nice. This is the first time I've had a nice full tray, and it is incredibly sturdy. So far, I am really, really loving these trays. I'm gonna put this tray on the shelf just underneath where my onions are. The thyme does benefit from light in order to sprout. It will get enough light just being down here without having a light directly on it to be able to sprout just fine. Let's check and see how our onions and celery are doing. This is now week 5, and as you can see, our onions have grown considerably. I did decrease the amount of light on these. It's at 9 to 10 hours. My celery over here, you can see that it is doing fantastic, and we even had an additional sprout right here. So now we have 7 plants, so 7 out of the 8 germinated. I was so excited to see that. So today, since these onions are quite tall now, they're probably at least 6 or 7 inches tall for the most part, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to snip them, just the tops of them. I want to keep them about 4 to 5 inches tall or so as they grow. The reason for that is if you don't kind of trim them up, then these plants are going to put a lot of energy into their leaves and not nearly as much energy into their roots. And you want them to have a really good root system. That's why we do this. I did the same thing with my onion starts last year, and they did fantastic. And I usually have to end up doing this to them every couple weeks or so until they go outside. And even then, I usually keep them trimmed up a little bit. The tops of the onions that we just trimmed off, you can use in dishes, so you don't have to let them go to waste. Thank you so much for joining me today while we started our next round of seeds. I can't wait to have you with me through this garden season to see how well our seeds do and how they grow and what our harvest is going to be like. So make sure you hit the subscribe button so you can follow along and get notifications when I upload my next video. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see you next time.